Welcome back to another stock portfolio update video. And as always, as a quick frame of reference, here's my portfolio as of last month, and here it is now as of August 1st, 2026. And the portfolio has now hit its first major milestone, crossing 5 figures and now being worth around $11,500. And though my gains kind of remain flat over the past month, I'm still very happy with how this portfolio is developing, and I believe it only continues to get stronger and stronger. But we have a lot of things to cover today. First off, I've had 4 companies within this portfolio report their earnings over the past week, that being Amazon, Mastercard, Meta, and SoFi. And I already have fully dedicated videos to Netflix and ServiceNow's earnings reports, so I won't really cover them. But I'd like to give my opinions on these 4 companies' earnings. Then after going over their earnings, I'm going to go into every move that I made over the past month, showing what companies I've bought in and when I've bought in them. So getting right into it, first we'll go over Amazon's report. And just right off the bat, their report was amazing. Even though Amazon is my second largest position overall across all of my portfolios, this was still just one of those earnings reports where I just went, man, I wish I owned more Amazon. Doesn't mean I'm going to stop buying Amazon, I'm still going to continue to pick up shares of this company, but I wish I bought a little more with prior to earnings prices. But getting into the report, they grew their revenues 20% year over year. Every one of their business items was just on fire. And of course, the main standout, what everyone's talking about, is AWS growing 37% year over year. With their backlog just continuing to explode higher, growing 154%, now around a $500 billion backlog. And again, AWS was the standout, but all of their other business lines still did incredible. First-party online sales and third-party seller services combined grew over 15%. For being such large overall revenue streams, this is very impressive growth. And then we have their advertising business, which is very accretive to their overall operating margins. That grew very fast as well, growing over 26%. And since AWS and their advertising revenue streams are higher margin and growing faster than their core revenue, is boosting up the overall margins of the entire company. So in the quarter, Amazon grew their operating income 43% year over year. Incredible growth for a company Amazon's size. We're seeing major developments in all of their smaller bets as well. They completed more satellite launches for Amazon Leo, now being enough to begin their initial satellite internet service this year. On the earnings call, they also stated that they already have several major customers lined up. Then in terms of their robotaxi service, Zoox, they finally got approved to actually charge for rides. Previously, they've only been in a really testing phase, so they weren't legally allowed to charge for rides. But now they can legally offer paid commercial service to customers. Only thing you could maybe nitpick a little bit about the report is their third quarter revenue guidance was a little weak, but I believe they're definitely going to beat that guidance by a wide margin. And their operating income guidance was very impressive. They guided for between 29 to 52% operating income growth next quarter. So again, just such a phenomenal report. Amazon just continues to prove why they are one of the greatest companies in the world. I'm nothing but bullish on this company, and I will continue to solidify them as my largest position. Next we have Mastercard. Though their report wasn't as shocking or wowing as Amazon's, Mastercard still had an A-tier report, and I really couldn't have asked more out of them. They grew their revenue over 14% year over year. They grew their total Mastercards over 6.5%. Their payment network segment continues to grow nicely in the double digits, and their value-added services is growing much faster, still growing over 20%. And that segment is also higher margin than their core payment network segment, so we still continue to see operating margin expansion out of Mastercard, going from about 58.7% operating margins to over 60% in this quarter. This company also produces so much cash flow, so they are continually doing a lot of share buybacks, reducing almost 3% of the total shares outstanding. So fast revenue growth, margin expansion, share buybacks, Mastercard is able to grow their earnings per share over 22% year over year. Again, just a phenomenal report from them. And they reported these great numbers despite having a major headwind against them over the past year, and that's Capital One migrating out of the Mastercard network. They stated that excluding this migration, their gross dollar volume in the United States would have actually grew 8% year over year, not 6%. and their switched volume in the United States grew 6%, but again, excluding Capital One migration, that would have grew 10% year over year. So starting in the second half of 2026, Mastercard will start to lap the start of the Capital One migration, so at that point, what has been a headwind over the company for the past year will become a tailwind and will provide easier comps for Mastercard to go against over the next year. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see revenue growth reacceleration over the next couple quarters. So Mastercard's report is one I'm very happy with, and another one I just wish I bought even more heavily. But next we have Meta. Now Meta's been a very divisive one. I've seen a lot of investors say that the report was phenomenal. They love what they're seeing out of Meta. I've seen some investors say the report was terrible, that Meta's in a bad place. I fall pretty much in the middle there. Compared to Microsoft, Amazon, and Google, Meta's report is definitely a grade or two below theirs. But the good news is that Meta's core business, their engagement metrics, their revenue growth, their daily active users, in terms of how fast their core business is growing, and if you just looked at that in isolation, everything looks phenomenal. They grew their revenues 28% year over year. Phenomenal growth for a company Meta's size. And in their other revenue stream, which includes a lot of their subscriptions that they're beginning to roll out, just in the latest quarter, that revenue stream crossed $1 billion and is growing over 72%. So they have a newer, very fast-growing revenue stream that helps diversify them from purely advertising. Obviously, it's still at a very small base, but it is growing very quickly. Even their Reality Labs segment grew pretty nicely year over year, growing over 16%. They said this growth was largely driven by Meta glasses selling very well. But at the same time, that growth was held back a lot by the Meta Quest VR headset declining in sales year over year. But even so, 16% growth there is very good. And again, they're also growing that daily active user metric, hitting a new all-time high at 3.6 billion daily active users. It's incredible that they're still able to grow this metric in the low to mid single digits still. They're still continuing to grow their average revenue per user metric greatly as well. So how much they're able to charge for ads has increased year over year. Their total user base is growing. How much time each individual user spends on all of their platforms is growing. And they stated that for all their apps, Instagram, Threads, WhatsApp, Facebook, all of them grew in engagement year over year. So again, just taking an isolated look at Meta's top line, it looks like the business is doing incredible. And if you just looked at these metrics, you'd probably say the earnings report was phenomenal, an A-tier report. But where you run into the issue with Meta is their bottom line. Despite 28% revenue growth, their earnings per share actually declined year over year, being down around 13%. And we're seeing their expenses grow rapidly. Their expenses as a percentage of their revenue, besides marketing and sales, every other line item increased greatly over the past year, especially R&D. In fact, their R&D expense just in the latest quarter was over $21 billion, an increase from just $13 billion last year. And I've seen the argument that their bottom line looks a lot worse because they had to pay a $2.4 billion legal fine in the quarter, along with they had a lot of layoffs in this quarter specifically, so they had to pay a lot of severance packages, and that was over $1 billion as well. Both of those expenses hit their G&A and made it look a lot worse than it should have been. Now, if you exclude these two charges from their total cost for the quarter, then their operating income actually would have been up 9% and not down negative 8%. And while being up 9% is a lot better than being down 8%, I have a couple pushbacks against this argument. First one being, when your revenue is up 28% and your operating income is only up 9%, that is still not something to celebrate. That is still margin compression, while your peers who are also spending like crazy on CapEx, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, we're seeing operating margin expansion in all of these companies. We're seeing their operating income grow faster than their revenue. And second kind of pushback is, though that $2.4 billion is technically a one-time, not recurring fee, I believe there will be even more one-time legal fees that Meta will have to pay over the next couple years. They stated in their earnings report that they still have a bunch of other legal cases ongoing, and they likely expect more future losses from these cases. Now, for Meta's long-term trajectory, I don't believe these legal fees will have any major impact or anything, but I believe there will be continued fees like this over the next couple years at least. So the problem with Meta spending compared to the other three major capex spenders is with Amazon, for example, with AWS, the more they spend, the more data centers that they build out, the more compute capacity that they have, the more they are directly able to capture more of their, again, nearly $500 billion backlog. And as they accelerate their data center build out, as they continue to get better chips from Nvidia and AMD, then their total compute capacity will actually accelerate over the next couple years. With their capacity accelerating, how much they're able to fulfill on their backlogs will also accelerate. That's why we're seeing continuous acceleration in AWS, Google Cloud, and Azure. And that's why we will continue to see those businesses accelerate revenue growth. With Meta, since they don't have a cloud business, with all of their spend that they're doing, with all of that compute that they're buying, with their accelerated compute, they don't have a backlog that they can fulfill on. Most of their compute is going towards AI models, going into making their social media algorithms a lot better. And that is leading to a very real material revenue acceleration in Meta, but there's no way of telling that the more they're spending, the more it will continue to accelerate. Because how much better can their algorithms really get? How much more time can users continue to spend every single year on Meta platforms? Will this spend lead to average revenue per user growth of over 20% next year? Will it lead to continuing to grow that 20% year after year? Meta has some really tough comps that they're going to have to go against in 2027. Will this spend lead to making their algorithms continually that much better? I don't know if we'll be able to see 30+% revenue growth out of Meta, but we are seeing their expenses continue to grow a lot faster than that. And while they have talked about directly charging for some of their compute capacity, kind of having a neo-cloud model like XAI, that model is just nowhere near as sustainable and profitable as what AWS, Google Cloud, and Azure are. But now when we're talking about 5-10 years out, I'm very bullish on Meta's overall trajectory, again because their top-line metrics all look incredible. The company is very much heading in the right direction in that regard, but their profitability over the next 1 to 2 years is likely going to be awful. Meta's definitely a long-term story that we're going to have to see play out, but I have no large expectations of Meta stock over the next 1 to 2 years. But finally, we now have SoFi. Day of earnings, investors did not like their report, but I thought it was incredible. They grew their revenue over 39%. They continue to grow their members at a very fast rate, now at 15.8 million, growing that around 35%. From 2025 to 2028, they're guiding for a 30% revenue CAGR, will very likely beat that. And for earnings per share, they're guiding for 38 to 42% CAGR, again, will likely beat that as well. And they're very much on track to. And their strategy of growing their products and features at a very fast rate to attract new members and to keep existing ones is very much working out. Over the past couple of years, we've seen a direct correlation with their product growth compared to their member growth, and we continue to see that correlation there. So SoFi knows as they continue to innovate, as they continue to launch new products and services, they will attract new customers and keep existing ones. They also raised their full year revenue guidance from 30% revenue growth to 32 to 35%. But now the main reason the company sold off the day of earnings was because they did not increase their earnings per share guidance for full year while they did increase their revenue guidance. However, their earnings per share guidance is still 54% growth, and they're very likely to beat that. So overall, I'm very happy with my company's earnings report so far. Meta is still showing me that it'll likely do very well over the next 5+ years, so I continue to hold them, but I don't have any positive short-term expectations for them. So now let's get into all of the stocks that I've bought over the past month. Starting with the one I bought the most of, and that's Uber. I bought 6 more shares of them for around $416. Now, I was kind of planning on not buying too much more of Uber, as it is becoming a pretty large position, and I don't want them overtaking Amazon, but then I saw them drop into the high to mid 60s and had to pick up a couple more shares. Unless they drop significantly on earnings for some reason, then I will likely buy more, but otherwise I will likely heavily temper my buys on Uber from here on out. Next we have Celsius. I bought 14 shares of them for around $414. I'm kind of building Celsius into a much larger position as well, but it's really just hard not to buy Celsius right now in the mid to high 20s. I believe they're so undervalued with a forward PE in the mid to high teens, and I want to build out this position as quickly as possible because I believe Celsius is an $80 to $100+ stock over the next 5 years. Next we have ServiceNow. Bought 4 shares of them for around $386. Obviously I wasn't sure if they were going to pop big or go down a lot after earnings, so I bought a share before, and then I saw they went down a lot after earnings, so I bought even more then. And I'm glad they went down more because now I solidified ServiceNow as a bit of a larger position in the portfolio. Before this month, it was close to my smallest position, so I'm glad I was given more opportunities to continue to build it up. Next we have Netflix, bought about $290 of them for 4 shares. Another one I'm going to kind of temper my buys on. I feel like I built them out to a pretty good position for the overall portfolio size at the moment. Next we have Amazon, just bought 1 share for $2.45. Again, I don't believe Amazon is really overvalued even after the move on Friday, so I will continue to be picking up Amazon shares here and there. But again, just wish I bought a little harder on the prices we had before earnings. Next we have SoFi, bought $217 worth of them for 13 shares. I think SoFi is a great buy right now. Their forward PE is at around 20, but I do want to kind of keep them as a smaller position, so I'm not going to continue to buy them too heavily. Next we have Meta, bought around $198 of them for about 1/3 of a share. Now with Meta, I'll likely continue to pick up a little more here and there, but I own a lot of Meta also in private portfolios, so it is overall my 4th largest position, so I feel like I'm overall pretty exposed to them. So again, unless we just see another huge leg down for Meta stock, my buys will likely be pretty light on this company. Next we have Zeta, bought $124 worth of them for 6 shares. They've run up a bit since I first started buying them, but I believe they're still incredibly undervalued. Another one I will just continue to be lightly buying at these prices. And finally we have Mastercard. I bought $123 worth of them for only about 0.23 shares. And Mastercard went on a decent run over the past month. My buy range was kind of $5.50 and below, so as they continued to run, I just kept my buys lower and lower. So I'll mostly be holding Mastercard now. Another one I'll probably do another buy here or there, but personally not as exciting of a buy at $5.70 versus when they were well below $500. But I'm gonna end this video here. Let me know down in the comments, what do you think of the portfolio, how it's developing, what you think of the buys I did over the past month. Do you think there are any changes I should make, any new stocks I should add, any stocks I should get rid of out of the portfolio? I would like to hear all of your takes, and I thank you all so much for watching this video. I appreciate every one of you tuning in, and I will see you all in the next one.